You walk into the kitchen after a long, exhausting day. The house is quiet, your feet ache, and the last thing you want to do is stand over a hot stove and cook a meal from scratch. You open the refrigerator door, the cold air hits your face, and you see the plastic containers stacked neatly on the shelf. There is the rice from 2 nights ago, the roasted chicken from Sunday, maybe some leftover potatoes or sautéed spinach. You take a container, pop the lid, and put it in the microwave for 2 minutes. You hear the hum of the machine, the beep, and you sit down to eat thinking you have made a smart, economical choice. You save time and you save money. But you do not realize that the machine on your counter just turned your innocent dinner into a chemical burden that your internal organs are desperately struggling to survive. I know that routine perfectly because I lived it for decades. My name is Harold Bennett. I am 81 years old. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, in a working-class house where my father spent his life in a manufacturing plant. In our home, throwing away food was considered a sin. You ate what was cooked, and you stretched the leftovers as far as they could possibly go. I spent my career in community health education, translating medical pamphlets into plain English so everyday folks could understand how to take care of themselves. After my wife Margaret passed away, I found myself living alone here in Scottsdale, Arizona. Cooking for one person is a challenge, so I relied heavily on leftovers. I was frugal. I was practical. I was also quietly destroying my own engine from the inside out. A few years ago, right around my late 70s, I had an episode that scared me to my core. It started as a heavy, uncomfortable bloating after dinner, the kind that makes you want to unbutton your trousers and sit perfectly still. Then came the extreme fatigue, a bone-deep exhaustion that made my daily morning walks impossible. Eventually, a dull, persistent ache settled right in my upper abdomen, directly behind my ribs. I assumed it was a bad stomach bug or maybe an ulcer from drinking too much black coffee. When the pain did not fade, I went to the clinic. They ran a series of blood panels and scans. The doctor came back with a grim look and told me my pancreatic enzymes were dangerously elevated. My pancreas was severely inflamed. It was not a virus or a genetic failure. It was an environmental assault, and the environment was my own kitchen. I tried to fix it the way we usually try to fix things when we get older. I went to the pharmacy and bought expensive antacids. I started eating smaller meals, chewing my food slowly, and drinking more water. Nothing changed. The heavy, aching feeling remained. I felt like a car running on bad transmission fluid, grinding gears every time I tried to digest a simple meal. The doctor warned me that chronic inflammation in the pancreas is the foundation for devastating diseases down the line, including aggressive cancers that do not give you a second chance. I was terrified, but I had no idea what I was doing wrong. The answer finally arrived on a Tuesday afternoon when my daughter Laura came to visit. Laura is a registered nurse up in Phoenix, and she has a very practical, unsentimental way of looking at health problems. She opened my refrigerator to get a glass of water and just stood there looking at my stack of aging leftovers. She pulled out a container of 3-day-old rice, a bowl of leftover fried chicken, and some cooked greens. She set them on the counter, sat me down at the table, and explained that my frugality was poisoning me. She explained that the pancreas is the hardest working piece of machinery in the digestive system. It produces the enzymes that break down your food and the insulin that manages your blood sugar. When you force it to process toxic compounds, it gets inflamed and exhausted. She pointed to the container of rice. I used to cook a big pot of rice, leave it sitting on the stove for 4 or 5 hours to cool down, and then put it in the fridge. Laura explained that raw rice contains microscopic bacterial spores that survive boiling water. When the rice sits warm on the stove, those spores wake up and multiply, producing a potent toxin. The terrifying part is that reheating the rice in the microwave kills the bacteria, but it does absolutely nothing to the toxin. The toxin is completely immune to heat. Every time I ate that old rice, I was dropping a low-grade poison into my plumbing, forcing my pancreas to deal with the inflammatory fallout. Then she pointed to the chicken. I relied on the microwave to heat everything. But a microwave heats unevenly, leaving cold spots hidden deep inside the meat. Those cold pockets are the perfect sanctuary for any bacteria that survive the fridge. I was ingesting small amounts of dangerous bacteria that sent my immune system into overdrive, creating a systemic inflammatory response that hit my vulnerable pancreas the hardest. The real shock came when she talked about the potatoes and the oil. Whenever I had leftover potatoes, I would often throw them in a skillet with a little oil to warm them up and get them crispy again. Laura told me that reheating cooking oil causes it to oxidize instantly, creating free radicals. Free radicals are like rust, moving through your bloodstream, scraping against healthy cells and causing mutations. On top of that, reheating a potato destroys the beneficial resistant starch that forms when it cools. Instead of a slow, steady digestion, the reheated potato turns into a massive, violent spike of blood sugar. My pancreas was being forced to pump out massive amounts of insulin to handle the emergency, exhausting the organ day after day. Even the vegetables I thought were saving me were part of the problem. I would cook a large batch of spinach or leafy greens and reheat them for 3 days straight. Leafy greens contain natural nitrates, which are perfectly healthy. But when you let them sit in the fridge and then blast them with microwave heat, a chemical reaction occurs. Those nitrates convert into compounds called nitrosamines, which are heavily linked to cellular damage and cancer. I was turning my healthy greens into a chemical burden. The one major kitchen change that saved my life was not buying a fancy new appliance or ordering expensive health foods. The change was completely overhauling my relationship with temperature and time. I stopped treating leftovers as immortal. Now, if I cook a batch of rice or chicken, I take what is left, spread it out in shallow glass containers, and put it straight into the refrigerator within an hour. Rapid cooling shuts down the bacteria before it can even start. I also adopted a completely new rule for eating the food the next day. I learned to embrace the cold. If I have leftover roasted potatoes, I eat them cold in a salad. The resistant starch stays intact, my blood sugar stays stable, and my pancreas does not have to panic. If I have cooked spinach, I eat it cold. If I absolutely must reheat chicken, I never use the microwave. I put it in the oven or on the stove where the heat is slow, steady, and uniform, ensuring that the internal temperature reaches a safe level without leaving cold pockets. And the most important rule of all, I only reheat a meal exactly one time. If there is anything left on the plate after that second meal, it goes directly into the trash can. It took me a massive health scare to realize that convenience can be incredibly expensive. After 60, the body simply does not have the extra bandwidth to deal with careless mistakes. We think we are saving a few dollars by stretching a meal and cutting corners with the microwave, but we are paying for it with the health of our vital organs. The pancreas does not complain until it is almost entirely broken. It suffers in silence. The independence we want to keep tomorrow is protected in the small, quiet habits we build today. You do not have to wait for a terrifying blood test to start treating your digestion with respect. Look in your refrigerator tonight. Think about how long that food has been there and how you plan to warm it up. Stop using your microwave as a crutch. Cool your food faster, eat more of it cold, and respect the limits of your internal engine. I'm going to head into the kitchen now and prepare a fresh piece of fish with some raw vegetables for dinner. Take care of yourself.